It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Joe DiBiase of the Locked On Sabres podcast. ButcherBox has all you need for a tasty, stress-free holiday season with high-quality protein delivered to your door. Sometimes the best gifts are the ones you give yourself, and ButcherBox is here to help you treat yourself to more delicious, wholesome meals. Sign up today at butcherbox.com/NHL and use the code NHL to get free chicken wings for a year. That's 3 pounds of free-range organic chicken wings free in every order for a year when you sign up at butcherbox.com/NHL and use the code NHL.
The work for building a quality fantasy squad doesn't stop, and that's why the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast doesn't rest. Tuesday's episode covering all of the top injury news from around the NHL. Cale Makar, Jakob Markstrom, Niederreiter extension. Tuesday's bets. Welcome back inside the lab. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hockey heads, fantasy fanatics, and degenerate gamblers, welcome back to your show. It's the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. And I'm joined, as always, by my esteemed co-host, Mr. Steele Roden. And on this side of the microphone, it's your boy, Big Flip Livingstone. And thank you sincerely from the bottom of our hearts for making us your first listen every single day. Steele and I are privileged to be breaking down all of this fantasy news for y'all Monday through Friday. So make sure you continue to smash that subscribe button and leave us a 5-star review wherever you are taking in this fire content. Steele, today's episode, I'm not butchering it this time, baby. Episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. My friends, welcome back. Steele, I'm feeling fired up today. The vibes are real right now. Hockey is flowing. It's the holiday season. A lot to be grateful for, including doing this show with you every single day. Top news in the NHL, though. We got to talk about it. Whenever Cale Makar gets hurt, I've said this before. There are a few elite level pieces in the NHL that anything happens to them, even 1 or 2 games, it's going to affect a lot of fantasy GMs. So you and I are going to talk about it right off the jump. Cale Makar. Jakob Markstrom, I don't know if you read into this a little bit, took a slap shot off the hand in practice. Those are never good. Apparently it was off the backside of the glove. We'll break down these injuries. Nino Niederreiter. A relevant fantasy piece, Steele. You're going to have to build your squad out with some of these guys. He's having a good year. Gets a little bit of money from the Jets. We'll talk about them. Tuesday's bets. I'm going to stop talking. Right over to you, my friend, as you know I like to do. Cale Makar, come on now. This is one of the best defensemen we've ever seen. We got to talk about it.
Quinn Hughes is giving him a run for his money now this season with the way he's playing. But, of course, Cale Makar is obviously up there and probably still the best defenseman in the league. Well-rounded defenseman on both ends of the ice. And clearly, when he gets hurt, we have to talk about it because it affects your fantasy leagues and it affects your fantasy weekly matchups as well. Obviously, it's just day-to-day. It's an undisclosed injury. He left with just under 3 minutes left in the third period, missed the overtime and the shootout on Saturday. I believe it was against the Anaheim Ducks, but it's, they lost that game too. So whenever he leaves the ice and he doesn't return, it's obviously something you got to keep your eyes on, but we don't really know much about what the actual injury is. It's undisclosed. He just left after
upper body.
Upper body. Again, not really much details, but we do know he's going to be out day to day. So he probably will miss tomorrow's game, I believe, against the Ducks as well. I don't know who the Colorado Avalanche are actually playing Tuesday night. Or who they're playing Wednesday, maybe. But we got to talk about a few options to replace him if he does miss the next couple of games. We know we just did the waiver wire targets on Monday. I listed a couple of them. I talked about Jake Wallman, so I'll mention his name again. He's only rostered at 34%. For Yahoo leagues on ESPN, you're most likely not going to get Jake Wallman because he's a stud out there. But he's rostered at 34% right now. A couple more that we're going to talk about the Winnipeg Jets. So I got to throw a couple of Winnipeg Jet defensemen out there. Neil Pionk is only owned at 37% on Yahoo fantasy leagues. Brendan Dillon is only rostered at 28%. He's got 4 goals and 7 points. He brings the peripheral stats alongside with it. So there's 3 names right there if Cale Makar were to miss the next couple of games.
Before I break down my thoughts on Makar, which will also be very quick, a name that I'm looking at in ESPN Steel, 63%. Thomas Chabot is out there in a lot of ESPN leagues. That's worth a look for sure if you're looking to fill in on the day-to-day basis. It sounds like it's just going to be day-to-day when you read into the quotes, when you read into, what the coach was saying. They're not really saying a lot. Tight-lipped around players this good is usually what happens when injuries happen at any point in the NHL. By the way, complete sidebar. Shout out to hockeyreference.com, a great website, great platform all around. I don't know if you've noticed this, Steele. Underneath all the players' names now, they bring their nicknames. They've added nicknames for every single major player. Cale Makar, the kid, Babyface, and All Hail Cale. I don't know who's coming up with these, but I see you and I appreciate your hard work. Anyway, Cale Makar is an absolute stud, and we don't really need to get into his obvious elite level top 20 draft picks in your fantasy leagues, maybe even top 15 Steele. He's probably the first one or two D-men off the board. He just brings so much on-ice value to this Colorado Avalanche club. Bowen Byram, Devin Tays. We've talked a lot about this Colorado team. Here's the thing, though. If he is even out one more game, right now we don't know anything. That's when you're going to have to scramble as a fantasy GM because, yeah, sure, okay, throwing out Thomas Chabot's name, we're throwing out some good names. If you are a squad that was in striking distance in your league, these kind of elite pieces are the reason you got there, and they will end up catching up with you in the end of it all. But day-to-day, we got our eyes on it. Another one, Jakob Markstrom. What's your take on this one? Puck off the back of the glove hand. In practice, a goalie steal that only a couple of years ago we were talking about as a Vezina. He finished second in Vezina voting 2 years ago, fourth in Vezina voting 4 years ago, and he's been all over the map in between. What's your take on this situation with a Calgary team that's also played a lot better of late?
Well, it was actually inside the blocker hand where he took that shot. So it was on the right side of his blocker hand. But yeah, this is a tough situation. Obviously, maybe this is a good chance to get that AHL stud Dustin Wolf in there. And get him some more reps while Markstrom, I don't know. Obviously, it's to his hand. It's going to be severe if he's taking a slap shot there. But Calgary Flames have been a lot better. They're 6-3-1 in their last 10, 10-11-3 on the season. They're right there in a wild card position. Obviously, a few of those teams. When we talk about the top three in the Central and Pacific, it seems pretty set. I know we're really early on right now, but especially for the Pacific Division, I think it's going to be those top three teams. So Calgary just has to keep on battling for a wild card spot, and there's obviously so much more hockey to be played this season. But they're going to really need Jakob Markstrom from 2 seasons ago to really step up. Obviously, when he comes back for this potential injury, if it's serious enough to keep him out for a week or so. But they're really going to need Jakob Markstrom to step up in the meantime. And Dan Vladar, and if Dustin Wolf gets in there and gets some game time and some playing action. So everyone needs to step up. This entire team needs to step up. Obviously, everyone on the roster knows what's going on in Calgary. It looks like they're selling. They've already shipped off Nikita Zadorov to the Vancouver Canucks. Who knows when Chris Tanev, potentially Noah Hannafin or Elias Lindholm, or maybe even someone else whose name hasn't been mentioned before, that they could be added into a deal shipping them out of Calgary. So who knows, but they're playing better hockey, and they just got to continue doing so and working as a group.
They are playing better hockey, Steele, and there's a couple of things there that almost go against each other in what you're saying, and it's not wrong. It's just almost like goes against logic. Is Calgary Flames have started to play better, but yet they're still shipping out pieces, and they're shipping out pieces to interdivision rivals, which tells me a lot about where this club might think it's at in terms of that front office assessing its on-ice quality. That's maybe I'm reading into it a little bit more than I should, but you know what I'm saying here. That is something that you can't ignore. The Calgary Flames have 23 points in my last point just on this before I, really pop off on today's episode because I'm feeling it. How about the Edmonton Oilers 7-3-0 in their last 10 and 4 wins, and they still are 11 points adrift of that third spot. So this is what happens, Steele, when you get behind the 8 ball so significantly. They're stringing together wins, and look, they're not making up a whole ton of ground on those top squads. So anyway, a little bit of a sidebar. The Calgary Flames and Jakob Markstrom have been a bit of a team that has just been hard to watch. You see Markstrom one year, he's in the mix for the Vezina, and then he goes on a streak of games where he's just looking really bad. really hard to put your finger on what's going on in Calgary. I think I've said this over the last couple of weeks on a number of teams, and that makes this time and stretch of the season still very, very tricky to navigate from a betting perspective or otherwise. That's teased to big-time bets at the end of the show. We're going to get there. We're going to talk quickly about Nino Niederreiter right after the break. I got one more take on this Calgary Flames situation as well. Steele's going to hit us with a weather update from the ground in Kandahar as well. Swirling sandstorms. But today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. When you're drafting your fantasy team, do you ever wish you could do the same thing with your business team? If you're building a roster to win, then you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform that you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you can do it all with Indeed. Steele, you know your boys out there looking for work. Indeed is an amazing tool. You got to jump on Indeed and check it out. Instant match. It's biggity baggity boom. Indeed knows when you're growing your business, and you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for the quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/lockedon to start hiring now. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon, Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. You need to hire. You need Indeed.
This is David Harrison of the Locked On Commanders podcast to draw your attention to the taste that's going down in the bread aisle. All thanks to Dave's Killer Bread, bread amplified. Anyone can bake bread, few can rock it, and Dave's Killer Bread is the champion of killer taste, killer texture, and is for those who want to rise above the boring. Organic and healthy doesn't have to mean boring when it's made with the highest quality organic and non-GMO ingredients, packed with whole grains, fiber, and protein. 21 whole grains and seeds bread has a subtle sweetness and a seed-coated crust, while Good Seed products are the boldest and sweetest of all. Dave's Killer Bread was built on the belief that second chances can change lives, because after spending 15 years in prison, not only did the guy with the guitar you see on every loaf turn his own life around, he's helping others to do the same. By hiring the best people for the job, regardless of their background, he's ensuring your mornings no longer taste like cardboard, your taste buds don't have to feel sedated, and your sandwiches can become superstars. Visit daveskillerbread.com to learn more and look for Dave's Killer Bread in the bread aisle of your favorite grocery store.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Big news from Locked On. They have launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. It's been up for about 3-4 weeks now. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus the national shows covering every single league. So go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube. Subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Thank you so much for doing so. Thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode, making it your first listen every single day, Monday through Friday. Hit the subscribe, 5-star review, and a follow on your favorite podcast platform. Flip, before we go on to the Winnipeg Jets, Nino Niederreiter deal, as well as are they pretenders or contenders? You got one final point on the Calgary Flames.
I just wanted to actually give kudos to the blue line that they're starting to pick apart. And maybe that is something to be said about why they're selling off, because they have so much attention. This Calgary Flames club has allowed the 6th least shots on net per game, up there in the league with the Carolina Hurricanes and other stingy defensive clubs. So not only do I think this hangs on the goalies a little bit, and it does hang on the offense because they're also near the bottom half of the league in goals scored, I'm just kind of pointing out that the defensive crew has actually been pretty good. So that is a shout out to Zadorov, Tanev, and Hanifin. That's just one of those little points that I had to make sure when I was looking at these numbers headed into the show is overall defensively, they've actually been pretty good.
Yeah, they have been. And that's just the rough thing, is that we know what the team is capable of, just can't find the chemistry right off the start. And that was something that Edmonton needs
to be better. They need to score more goals.
Offensively,
no
they
depth.
need to be better. There isn't. And one of the problems, I think, is, they're switching up the line so often now that just, I don't think anyone's able to get comfortable. But when you have a player like Nazem Kadri or Jonathan Huberdeau, who you're paying top dollar for to be a superstar, they need to be ones running the show. And instead of, they've just been very passive with the puck. And could just do a lot more with attacking the blue paint or at least trying to figure out some sort of offensive strategy to get everyone involved or even themselves offensive opportunities. But Calgary has been playing better, so maybe the offense turns around there. Nino Niederreiter, though, of the Winnipeg Jets, signs a 3-year, $4 million AAV, so $12 million overall for the entire deal with the Winnipeg Jets. He's 31 years old, going on 32 next summer, I believe. And he's just been a very consistent 40, 50-point player throughout his entire career. He's got 6 goals, 14 points so far this season with in 23 games. He's on pace for 50 points, 200-plus shots, 90-plus hits, 50-plus blocks. And he's doing this all on the third line, playing just over 15 minutes of average ice time this season with Adam Lowry and Mason Appleton. So he's been one of those guys. He's been one of those great additions over the last year and a half, veteran presence to kind of figure out what was going on and bring stability in the locker room. They give the captaincy over to Adam Lowry, who really much deserved it for what he's done with the Winnipeg Jets and their organization over his NHL career as well. Yeah. But he's been a calming presence, I think, in the dressing room, and they've sort of, again, after Blake Wheeler's departure, Pierre-Luc Dubois' departure, it seems like they're coming back to what we know they are and capable of from 3 years ago.
Looking at this lineup, top 9, Kyle Connor, Scheifele, Ehlers up top. Very solid. One of the best offensive lines going right now. Iafallo, Perfetti, and Velarde. You don't need for me to talk about how much you think I like that fit. And the third line of Nino Niederreiter, Adam Lowry, and Mason Appleton. Then you have, again, also, I'm going to come on this show. You know how I like to talk about our predictions going right. I was wrong about Josh Morrissey. We thought he was going to have a big regression season. He's doing it once again, Steele, and he is leading that blue line because, let's be real, Dylan DeMello, Brendan Dillon, and Neil Pionk, okay, they're playing great, and yeah, they're winning games. Those are 3 names that on most teams are bottom 2 or bottom 4 pairings. So they're getting it done, in my opinion. Anyway, all I wanted to say is, Steele, this is a balanced team, and right now they have a real good chance in that division to make some noise. And when you look at, actually, I wanted to bring up Cap Friendly here. Now there's been a number of really astute moves made by Kevin Cheveldayoff in that front office, getting it done. The 2 big signings, obviously, at the start of the year with Scheifele and Hellebuck, but a lot of key pieces, including Lowry, including Kyle Connor, all under contract for the next couple of years. Josh Morrissey all the way through till 2028. So if you like what's going on in Winnipeg right now in terms of that core, and of course, the peripheral fantasy value that Niederreiter brings, Steele, he's one of those guys, those bottom 6 beauties. I think we actually talked about this line. He is one of those pieces that is great to fill out your lineup.
Yeah, and we're talking about Winnipeg Jets overall. At this point, they've changed my mind. I believe they are a playoff team. I just don't know if they hold on to that third spot in the Central Division because of how surprising Arizona's been, how surprising St. Louis has been with now Jordan Binnington calming himself down from the previous 2 seasons.
I'm taking the Jets all day over those 2 teams if we have to go down to it, though. But
that's fair enough, but they've been very surprising. I'm not going to let go of Nashville Predators because they've been a lot better of recent. Minnesota Wild's obviously my second favorite team.
8 points back. They're not dead.
On them. They're not dead. So, yeah, the Central Division's a lot closer than I think. And
that might be the closest one in the league.
There might be a few surprises come playoff time, but I do believe at this point now the Winnipeg Jets have changed my mind. They are a playoff team. And what it's going to come down to playoff time is Connor Hellebuck. Because we know how much a goalie can, switch the tides, change the tides. And we saw that last year with Adin Hill when he came in and just took over. I know obviously the Vegas Golden Knights were just an elite team all around, but Adin Hill was one of the biggest stories, biggest reasons for their success in winning the Stanley Cup last year.
And have a look at the other side of the coin. Sergei Bobrovsky, I know there was a lot of good things going on with Florida, but he carried that team through a number of rounds. That usually is what happens. A goaltender catches fire. Shout out to Nino Niederreiter, according to Hockey Reference, El Nino and the Swiss Sniper. Shout out to these new nicknames, Steele. I'm coming in hot off the top rope with these bad boys. But also, just Nino Niederreiter was actually a 5th overall draft pick. So I just wanted to throw out that little tasty tidbit because I am ready to get to bets. It's just when these signings happen. And yeah, it's not a blockbuster. It's not so much about the signing. If that team's investing in Nino Niederreiter still at this age, and you and I, say what you will about our hockey knowledge, buy into what these teams are doing. And that's why we're highlighting these points. Nino Niederreiter has 14 points in 24 games, 61 shots on net. He is also one of those pieces, Steele, that does sometimes slot up and down the lineup. I'll spit these words out. Right now, he's fitting in on that third line, but he has played all over the top 9 in Winnipeg, even since arriving there. So when you have good players that have that ability and they're already getting it done, these are how you build a fantasy winner.
That is true. That is very true. He has done a very good job up and down the lineup wherever he's placed. Just that, again, calming veteran presence that he brings to the Winnipeg Jets locker room and on the ice. We're going to get over to big time bets very, very soon after this. But this episode is also brought to you by Game Time. You shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event. That's why both Flip and I use the Game Time app. Game Time is the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you, with killer last-minute deals on all-in prices, views from your seats, and their best price guaranteed. Last-minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals, easy to find your tickets with just 2 taps with purchase, views from your seats at the venue, lowest price guaranteed, event cancellation protection, and job loss protection. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. And like I said, it's easy. Just with 2 taps, your tickets are right in your inventory. They're obsessed with finding ways to help you save money on tickets. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an after it starts. It's the place to find last-minute seats. And the Game Time guarantee means you always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Hey everyone, Chris from Locked On Avalanche here. If you like using debit over credit, I just learned about something that's definitely a game changer. Discover Cashback Debit. It's a checking account that rewards everyone with cash back on everyday purchases, which means you can get cash back on NHL tickets or head-to-toe hockey gear to make this season a total win. Check out eligibility and terms at discover.com/cashbackdebit. Discover Bank, member FDIC.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to hit the subscribe, leave a follow button, and a 5-star review. We appreciate all that support you show us Monday through Friday, 5 days a week. We're getting it done here on Big Time Bets. Well, hopefully, I need a big week because last week, holy cannoli Flip, that was brutal. Brutal on the bank account. But
we're taking it on the chin, though, Steele. We show up and we get it done. That's it.
We're trying to regroup, refresh here for this fresh week, the start of December.
Yeah.
It's Christmas time. It's all jolly. Everyone's feeling it. It's holiday season.
It's something.
It's something for sure. So let's get it started with Big Time Bets, where the money is made. Flip, list off your first 2 bets.
Okay, it is the same game parlay, so I'll leave a little bit of
do all 3. Same game parlay, do all 3.
Same game parlay, Steele. And you know what? I think actually when you and I have talked a lot about, especially at this time of year, especially at this tough stretch of the betting schedule, maybe it is better to do some of these same game parlays, dial the bet back, build up your odds, and just kind of tighten the reins in a little bit. So, and looking at this board, as much as there are some spots, I don't know, I found it very difficult. 8-game Tuesday board. And in my opinion, after looking at them, if I have to look at this board for longer than 15, 20 minutes without writing down one pick that I really like right away, that tells me that it's not only do you need to do your research every single night, but that it is a tough board. Now I'm going to spit out my picks. The Los Angeles Kings are 14-4-3. And when you look at this spot against the Columbus Blue Jackets, obviously at -200, no value on the money line here betting on the Kings. So this is the same game parlay and it's going to happen real quick. LA on the money line -200. LA at Columbus over 6.5 at -106. And one of my favorite LA Kings and one of the players that Steele, you saw my keeper team. He'd be right there, but I traded him in another move. Adrian Kempe, I've talked about at length. If I'm talking Kings, it's like when I talk Sid, I'm going to talk anytime point for Adrian Kempe. I'm loving them parlayed together. I'm loving a big night for a Kings team that, and I'm going to turn it right back over to you, Steele, I promise, is 4th in the NHL in goal scoring with 81, right behind teams like Avalanche, Canucks, Red Wings, and Lightning. They can score with the best of them. What's interesting, though, Steele, their power play is in the bottom third of the NHL. If this team can start clicking on offense, and look at Quinton Byfield go, there's rumors out there that they might go after a goalie to really shore up that back end. Drew Doughty is having a good year. Don't sleep on this LA Kings team as a real threat to go on a run in the West. You're on mute again, brother.
That good old mute button.
Yeah,
it continues to win. It's got me 3 times in a row now. But if anyone's sleeping on the LA Kings, they have a severe problem because they're lighting up the lamp right now. Everywhere, everyone's doing everything to win these games. And that's why they're top 3 in the Pacific Division. And the scary thing is, too, they've got 4 games in hand on the Vancouver Canucks and Vegas Golden Knights. So they could easily be at number 1 in that Pacific Division. I've got 3 bets, all from different games, 2 money line, 1 puck line. I'll just rattle them off. Rangers on the money line against the Ottawa Senators. They're on the road. Oh, man. I want to believe in this Ottawa Senators team so bad because I really do think Korpisalo is a much better goaltender than what we've seen.
Okay.
I think their blue line is a lot better than what we've seen. Obviously, Thomas Chabot's been injured. They've had some significant injuries on the blue line. Yeah, the injuries have been detrimental to their success, but they've also been playing bad. You can't beat around the bush. They have been playing bad. And the Rangers are at top, and they're at the top of the top of the Metro for a reason. It
looks so good.
So good. Rangers money line, that's my first pick. Second pick, Canucks money line against the New Jersey Devils. And I know a lot of people are kind of, obviously they believe that New Jersey Devils are going to be a successful team. I don't think they've been as successful as other people have thought so far this season. They're only injuries 11. Again. They're 11-10-1. Yes, they've had injuries, but a lot of other teams have had injuries, and they still find ways to win. Yeah. But obviously, losing Jack Hughes is very significant. Losing Nico Hischier is very significant. But they have other guys. They have other guys. They have other guys who have just not been, helping up or stepping up with those absences. So got to go with the big dogs over there in the West. Canucks money line against the Devils. And then my lock of the night, Islanders puck line against the San Jose Sharks. They've won 6 out of the last 10 matchups against the Sharks. And every single time that they've won by 2 or more goals. So I'm going Islanders on the puck line for my lock.
I like that, Steele. These are the spots we're tapping in, baby. Holidays are right here on the horizon. Honestly, it's this time of year that I really just enjoy, even on nights where the Leafs aren't on, which are obviously our favorite. You and I are tapped in. We're watching Minnesota, Chicago on an afternoon on Sundays. We're getting serious. We're just digging into the trenches, and that's what you should be doing as well as a fantasy GM. Yeah. Loving the bets for Tuesday. I hope we get this money in a big way. Good luck this week to everyone out there listening.
Need that money for the holiday season, baby. And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. And again, got to go check out Locked On Sports today. They've launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. They are here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus the national shows covering every single league. So go to Locked On Sports today on YouTube. Subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Thank you again so much for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Have a great day. Good luck with all your bets out there. And we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.
At Discount Tire, we know how valuable your time is around the holidays. Get 30% shorter average wait time when you buy and book online at DiscountTire.com, so you can spend more time with friends and family this holiday season. Discount Tire, let's get you taken care of.
The Monday edition of Locked On NHL is a must-listen. Every Monday on Locked On NHL, host Gil Martin takes you to the 3 biggest NHL stories from the weekend's games with the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network. No national fluff. You get the real story from the Locked On experts who are with the team every day. Put it on your calendar every Monday on Locked On NHL. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.